So you can use the masking pen on anything you want. It has to be a non-porous surface. You can use it on paper, you can use it on canvas. You'd never want to use it on fabric because that's too porous. So you would put mask for whatever your reason on whatever surface you wanted, and you have to be sure you let this dry. This has to be absolutely dry before you paint on it. I have 10 commandments of masking fluid in my book. It's really 13 or 14. But the thing you really need to remember is dry, dry, and dry. Your paper has to be dry before you put the masking fluid on it. Your masking fluid has to be dry before you put paint over it. And your paint that you put on it has to be dry before you take the masking fluid off. And if you remember those three things, it's kind of like location, location, location. You remember dry, dry, and dry. You'll be in pretty good shape with remembering what to do with the masking fluid. Also, don't put this out in the hot Arizona sun to dry because it'll get gummy if left out there for too long. So I usually try not to put heat, applied heat, or actual heat onto the masking fluid. Now, I'm not sure if Henry is in your view of vision yet, but if his cat head shows up, that's who he is. It's Henry, my little lover cat. Okay, so here is one that I put the masking fluid on, and it is dry. And the way you can really tell, a lot of times in my workshops, people don't think that the masking fluid is dry. The way you can tell is you put your finger on it, and if you lift it up, it doesn't come off. If it comes off, then you know it's not dry. So at this point, it's dry, so I can take some paint, and I'm just gonna put a fluid wash of blue, and I can put my paint over this. Now, when I go to take that off, I'm going to have a line that is the color of the surface. So in this instance, once that dries and I take that off, I'm going to have a white line because I put my mask on a white surface. So here is one that I did earlier. The mask was put on the white paper and I put blue over it just like that. And you can just use your finger to take this off. They have things called rubber cement pickups at the art stores. And those, if you're doing a lot of this, they're really helpful. You just drag it across. And so now we have this beautiful blue and we have this beautiful white line showing through it. Now, how about if we want a different colored line? We can either tint that line after we've saved it white, or we can put our masking fluid on a tinted surface. Now, in this example, I painted the white paper red, and then after it was dry, I put the masking fluid on top. Now, here's a quick trick question I always ask when I do demos and classes. If I take the masking fluid off now, what color will my line be? And I would say that many people, and I don't know, most, they'll say red. Your line would be red. But if I take the line off now, say I just took that line off, there's no line because you only get a line if you cover it up so that is protecting something. So what I have to do with this, if I want to get a red line, the masking pen is sitting on top of the red surface. I now have to cover that with another color. And when this dries and I take that masking fluid off, because the masking fluid was put on red, you will have a red line showing. And I have students in workshops, they'll say, "Jo, I took off my masking fluid and I don't have any line." And I said, well, it's because you never put a color on top of it. So that's just a little thing that is easy to forget, especially if you do layers and layers of mask, you'll forget that you haven't put a color on top of it yet. I do kind of a faux batik in some things, and you really lose track. Have I done color? Have I done mask? So that's putting the blue on top of the mask that was on red, and this one is dry, so I will show you this I had done earlier. So now when I take that off, isn't that cool? So now you have this beautiful red line showing through that blue. And that was just because I put mask on a red surface. You can put your mask on a multicolored surface. You can put it on any color surface you want. And whatever you mask on, as long as you put another layer on top, then when you remove it, you will have the color of the surface that you applied it to. You can also put masking fluid on black. Here's just a piece of black canvas. I usually will just gesso my paper black or my canvas black. This happens to be a pre-gessoed. And here you see, this is just the mask on black. And you just like on white, you just let it dry. And once it's dry, then you can apply paint. The thing when you apply paint on black is it must be more opaque, because if you put transparent paint on black, you won't see the paint. So here here's where I put the mask, and then I did another one, and then I put paint over it. Now this is a really neat look when you put the mask on black, because when you take that off, you get this masked black line that is really hard to get in about any other way. And when you take the mask off a black surface, it's harder to get off because I've used opaque paint over it, and opaque paint is thicker and it covers the mask. You have to work at it a little bit better. This is where the rubber cement pick up would work better, but I couldn't find mine. I think it's out in my teaching supplies, and it's 190 degrees here in Arizona, and I didn't want to go out in the garage and find it. So here we go. There is black mask applied to mask applied to a black surface. And the way you can tell you got all your mask off, a lot of times you can't really tell. Just run your hand over it and you'll feel, like I had that dot left and I really couldn't see it because the paint had made it blue. You just run your hand over it. You'll feel that all of the mask is gone. So that is it for today. I just wanted to show you how to apply the masking fluid and what kind of surfaces you could apply it to. And I hope you enjoyed this, and